Hey guys, welcome to this brand new episode of Suits and Sports. And on behalf of Global Sports Policy Review, I would like to welcome our guest for today. It's Mr. Deep Ray Sir. So Deep Ray Sir is actually an advisor for GSPR as well. And he's also a prominent international sports lawyer. Currently, he is a partner at Sensato Sports Law, which is in Barcelona in Spain. So hi sir, how are you today?
Hi Ryan, I'm good. I hope you're doing well. And of course, thanks a lot to Subhrajit, to you and the entire team, entire GSPR team for inviting me for this episode.
So the first question, sir, how is the quarantine treating you? You are in India for a long time.
Yeah, it's been hard, I think it's been very difficult for all of us dealing with the quarantine, and I am currently living with my family, with my parents, and we are all having a very difficult time. We're having to be extremely careful, but there's not much we can do about it. In terms of work, it hasn't been so bad, to be honest. Thankfully, I can work remotely. I can take care of clients remotely. So that's not been such a big issue. But of course, on the personal front, it's been rather boring, I would say, of late.
But the Euro season is on, and now you are in India, not in Europe, after a long period of time. Because we know, maybe you are the first Indian to set up a law firm. Being an Indian, you are setting up a law firm in Spain. Then you are in that European part, and Euro is in knocking the door. And being a sports lawyer, so what's in that case? What is your feel now? Quarantine, okay, you're with family, but what is that? What is the other side of the coin? What is it saying?
Absolutely, it's a pity, not being in Europe. I mean, I'm a huge fan of football, of course, and I love to attend games. And this is something I've been doing, since I was a child. I'm from Calcutta, and I think the first game I went for was a East Bengal versus Mohun Bagan game, and I was, I think, 9 years old. So I really love to go to the stadium and watch games. And if I had been in Europe during the European Championships, I definitely would have tried to attend at least a couple of games. It's a pity, but again, there's not much we can do about it. So, well.
So you just now mentioned another thing, like East Bengal and Mohun Bagan. So it's like in those who are from India, they know the fact that East Bengal Mohun Bagan is more like Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Right.
So which side you are from, East Bengal or Mohun Bagan?
So I'm a fan of Mohun Bagan. So it's a little funny in my house. So my mother is a fan of East Bengal, and my dad is a fan of Mohun Bagan. So my parents don't speak much before the derby. There's a lot of tension in the house, but but it's not. I did not become a Mohun Bagan for any other reason. The primary reason, I think, was Barretto. If Subhrajit, you may remember, I don't know, Ryan possibly does not remember.
No, Ryan, he does not know that. No, Ryan, I think he knows.
Very young when Barretto was in his peak. So there was a Brazilian player called Barretto. I think before the ISL started, he was undisputedly the best player I had seen play in India. It was amazing. So that is primarily why I became a fan of Mohun Bagan. When you usually start following a club when you're very young, and then you become like a fan. It's, for me at least, it's a lifelong thing, perhaps. Yeah.
So are you happy that they merged with ATK?
Look, I think it was inevitable, because all things said and done, the I-League clubs, the legacy clubs, East Bengal, Mohun Bagan, perhaps they were not, I don't want to say much about this issue, but then perhaps they were not being run in a very professional manner. So this, I think, was inevitable. I mean, most of us could see this coming. The fact that East Bengal and Mohun Bagan would have to sell off majority of their shares or merge with some other club. This was going to happen sooner or later. So I was not surprised. And honestly speaking, I think I'm happy. All things considered.
Sir, there is a question I want to ask you, because we have seen both different type of football leagues, right? Like you have seen the European League also, you have seen the Indian League also, right? And you have seen this thing closely, as you are like a sports lawyer, you were in Europe for a certain period of time. So I just want to know one thing, like it is better, you can also, you can describe us better this thing. Like, what's the thing which are doing wrong and what is the thing they are doing right? Because like whenever we go for certain part, we I think most of the like some of the European countries structure is same as us. But what is we are doing wrong?
To be honest, Subhrajit, I wish I had an answer to that question. I don't think I'm qualified to tell you or our viewers what we exactly are doing wrong. I think it's a matter of time, to be honest. It's a learning process. Let's not forget that football became professional in India fairly recently. Even when, say, I had started watching football in India, started following football rather, it was not professional. Or even when I started working in the industry, it was not so professional. So ISL is not even 10 years old. So it's a progress. It's going to take time. I think we are moving in the right direction, and it's going to take a bit of time. Certain steps are being.
Sir, you muted yourself.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
So what I was saying was, I do believe that we are moving in the right direction. We could do more things to improve the system, to improve the structure for sure. But there are several things which have been done in the past few years, which does give me a lot of hope, and I am at least quite optimistic about the development of Indian sports, unlike perhaps many of my fellow professionals.
Right. So that like Ryan has many questions in his mind as a new upcoming sports lawyer. I think he's going to shoot one to you. This Ryan,
Sure.
the mic is to you.
So I think this question a lot of people would have already asked you. So it's pretty plain and simple. So a lot of us, aspiring sports lawyers do envision working abroad. So I want to ask you, what is it like to work in a different country, especially in regard with sports law, where the structure of sports is way different?
Look, the kind of work I do, I work primarily on cases having an international dimension. So when I'm working with Spanish clients, I'm not, at least that's not what I'm doing. I'm not really working on domestic matters so much, So usually I appear before FIFA, the Court of Arbitration Sports. I, of course, am not qualified to appear before Spanish courts. My partner has a license to practice in before domestic courts in Spain, but not me. Generally, for Indian students who are looking to work abroad, this is the kind of work they can expect to do. Because say whether you're working in Spain or in Germany or say in Brazil, you're not going to handle a lot of domestic matters. You would primarily be working on cases having an international dimension and appearing before international tribunals, whether that be FIFA or say BAT, Basketball Arbitration Tribunal, or the Court of Arbitration Sport. So yeah, that's what I would say happens.
So in terms of, okay, so could you explain to us the difference as to how sports lawyers work in a particular, let's say a football club, they have their own legal counsel, right? So what is the work that they are primarily doing and the work that a sports law firm would do?
Okay, so working for the legal team of a club is very similar to working as the in-house counsel of a company. Okay, so you may not only be working on, say, transfer deals or on employment-related matters, or not only on matters which are specific to sports. Say, for instance, you're working as the in-house lawyer of Barcelona, and maybe they are getting some construction work done, stadium-related work or something like that. As an in-house lawyer, perhaps you'll be expected to work on those kind of work orders and construction agreements as well. Then there may be certain taxation issues which you'll be required to take care of. Now, as an international sports lawyer or as a law firm, what we generally do is we focus only on the matters which are directly related to football. Okay, so that could be a transfer-related matter. Okay, an employment-related dispute. Say there's a matter which needs to be argued before the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So the in-house lawyers may not have the skill or the expertise to work on such a matter. In those cases, a club typically appoints an external counsel, whether that's an independent lawyer or a law firm, to work on that specific matter.
So base part of Deep Racer's answer is Deep Racer is to the point. Short answer, but to the point. It's like we need like this type of thing only, like to the point. Like sometimes it's more vast and all that. So, but one question I want to ask you in this like prospect of football only, which is still few years back, we don't have a problem in football only. We don't have a proper RSTP policies, which was need to implement. Then it was by one of your friend itself only, I think, Mr. Ujjwal, who drafted, like who also drafted this RSTP. So there was our Indian Contract Act, and RSTP is more often like you can say the contract policies type of thing, right? The transfer of players and all. So people now in India still now people have a confusion, like why we need RSTP if we have an Indian Contract Act. So what's your view in that?
Okay, so let's take the example of employment related matters. All right. So typically, and this is what happens globally, football players and coaches have certain specific rights, I would say, okay, when it comes to labor issues. They enjoy certain special rights as compared to other employees. All right. So, for example, generally speaking, say if you're working at a company or even at a law firm, there's a clause in the contract regarding which perhaps your employer can let go of you by giving you 1 month's notice. Okay. In football, generally, that's not the case. A contract is supposed to be valid at least till the end of the season. Okay. So if a club feels that a player is underperforming, is not fulfilling the expectations, they can't simply, of course, it depends on the terms of the contract. There can be certain exceptions, but generally this is what the rule is. A player cannot be fired because he's not performing to the club's expectations. Now, one reason behind that is the career of an athlete is one, it's very short. And the other thing is, say I work at a law firm, tomorrow the law firm asks me to leave, I can find employment at a different law firm, right? Within a month or 15 days or 2 months. That may not be possible for a football player, right? Because a player can only be hired and registered by a club only during the summer transfer window and the winter transfer window. So if midway through the season, a player is asked to leave, then he would be left without a job. I'm just giving you one example. There's several such examples, and football players do enjoy certain specific rights. Okay, that's one thing. The other issue is related to jurisdiction. So not only in India, when we talk about, say again, matters having an international dimension, such cases can be brought before the FIFA DRC. Let's take an example. Say a Spanish football player is playing in, say, Malaysia, all right? Now, the player has a dispute with the club and the player's contract has been unjustly terminated. Now, it's certainly not a good option for the player to approach local courts in Malaysia to obtain a remedy. For that reason, FIFA has a dispute resolution chamber where they apply their own regulations instead of applying the domestic law of the country. You know, because again, I mean, you can imagine how difficult it would be for a foreigner to find a lawyer in the country where he or she is playing. Legal costs tend to be high. Then sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, in most occasions, judges who are working at local courts are not well aware of the football industry. So it's difficult for them to decide on such cases. So because of all these reasons, there are a separate set of regulations for football players. Okay. And I think that is the basic reason why the Indian Contractors Act is not sufficient to always take care of the issues which football players face. And there is a need to have specific regulations for them, which govern their relationships with football clubs. Okay. Then again, if we talk about transfers, you know, that's something very unique. I mean, of course, there are certain basic contractual principles which apply to each and every contract. But again, say, let's take the example of a buyout clause. Okay. This is a very unique feature which is only relevant in football. So these things need to be addressed. You need to have a specific set of regulations. Then you need to have jurisprudence. You need to have separate tribunals where you can admit these matters. I hope I've been able to answer your question, Subhrajit.
Yes, so again, sir, to the point, and you have mentioned it, the main parts which we need to know, because so another thing, like as the people as nowadays not talking it much, which is the European Super League, right? So, but people, if you consider take that part, like people have forgotten that part, the European Super League was there, but it's no more. But few days back, if you went to the new people, if the people who are saying that too much, if they have said that too much, they have seen that view, like recently this three club has been sued, right? Barcelona, Madrid, and Juventus has been sued. So, sir, what is your view on this point? Like, what make this club come up with this thing? Like, we will be making up our own league. What's your view in that? Like, either they are like they think they are like superior than FIFA, or they are like they have too much money, they can do anything. Like we have seen many incidents also, right? Past many incidents we have seen, like Chile Copa America, then FIFA, then also again this thing which they have done is something like this put under FIFA, or like it's like the money matters for the who have the money, who has the man who has the money, he can rule. It's something which happened inside the club. What's your view on that?
Look, I mean, I think I speak for most football fans when I say that I don't think it's a very good idea, one. And secondly, it was managed really badly. Okay. I think it was a PR disaster. All right. So, firstly, whether the idea was good or not, that's a secondary issue. The way it was presented was terrible. The creators of the league did not really consult the fans. They did not even consult the football players and coaches. So that was a terrible idea. You can't make a league work unless people. I mean, I don't know why they thought people would accept it blindly, because nowadays, especially now with social media and everything, football fans like to get very involved, and they have a say in these matters. Okay, let's get that clear. However, I think the reason behind coming up with such an idea, this is not a new idea. This has been in the works for a very long time. I think one big concern which non-English clubs have is the growing popularity of the Premier League, okay? And how much money Premier League clubs make. Now, I'm not exactly sure about the numbers, but I was reading a recent report where it was stated that Premier League clubs which finish in the bottom half of the table make more money than, say, a Spanish club which finishes fifth or third or fourth, even possibly on the league table. Same with Italian clubs. So they are quite insecure about whether they'll be able to keep up with English clubs in the future or not. I think that's one big reason, and that is indeed a problem. How are Italian and Spanish clubs? Because see, what we've seen in the past few years, if you look at the clubs which have won the Champions League especially, all of them are clubs which have spent quite a bit of money on transfer fees. They do have the best players in the world. Okay, so it's becoming increasingly difficult for clubs to sustain themselves unless they are making a lot of money. I personally am a fan of AC Milan. Okay, I've been a fan of Milan for the past 20 years. Now, Milan has had a very bad period. I mean, they're back in the Champions League after, I think, 8 years. And what was the primary reason behind their downfall? Their owner was Silvio Berlusconi, who used to pump in a lot of money into the club. Then, after a point, due to certain reasons, he could not do so. And that led to the downfall of the club. So, how is a club like Milan? Okay, Milan is back in the Champions League, but is the club going to be able to compete with, say, even like Chelsea or City or some of the other top clubs? And I think, especially with COVID, even clubs like Real and Barcelona are very concerned that they are not going to be able to compete with, especially with English clubs going forward. That is also something which I don't think is being talked about enough, because there is a problem in football. We can't simply ignore the problem.
But one question that comes here in my mind is light moment. So it's a light moment, you know that. So why you have taken the name of Chelsea at first? You can take different club's name also.
No, because Chelsea just won the Champions League. There's no
Okay, so
other
you have
reason.
no.
That's why I
Okay, then
used
you have no
Chelsea.
other issue, right? Then it's okay. Like you are talking
No,
with
I
a
mean, I'm
Chelsea
not.
fan, so you are in front of a Chelsea fan, and you are like taking
I
the
don't
first
know.
name
Are you a
Chelsea.
Chelsea fan, Subhrajit?
Oh, like sir, I have seen Chelsea from Drogba, Lampard, Peter
Okay,
Cech.
okay.
So
No, that's
they have.
amazing. Congratulations to you for winning the Champions League. I mean, I don't have anything against Chelsea. I quite like the club. It's just that, they won the Champions League. So, I mean, that's why the name came up. There's no other reason.
You can take the name of Madrid, sir. Is the Madrid boys here, sir? Only they have the money. Like they never give respect to the players. We have seen many scenario, right? Even with one of their favorite goalkeeper, Casillas, how they have thrown in out. So
Yes,
you can take the name of Madrid, sir, because they only the money speaks. So yeah, thank
Real
like
Madrid,
okay.
of course, absolutely, absolutely. They are very professional, and their fans are extremely demanding. I think they have the most demanding fans in Europe. I believe they are never going to settle for. They always want to be the best. And I've actually been to the stadium, and it's insane. They are very passionate and they're very demanding. They are a little different. So I mean, that's how things work. I mean, I don't really want to criticize one particular club. I'm just saying there's a big issue in football. That's what I'm trying to say. And again, I don't have anything against English clubs either. I mean, one could even say that the English clubs deserve all the money that they've been making, because commercially they have taken it to the next level as compared to, especially compared to Spain and Italy. Because again, I mean, the kind of marketing the Premier League has done is incredible. As someone working in the sports industry, I have a lot of respect for the model, which has been followed by the Premier League in the past 20 odd years or so.
That's really great. So moving on. So you just like actually told about how contracts would work in football. So I have a question. It suddenly popped up in my mind. So recently, when COVID first struck, football it stopped, right? So if you notice, a lot of obviously the duration of the lot of contracts had to be extended, and I think even in regard with Messi wanted to leave, and then they again said that there was a particular date. So how does that work, sir? Like when something comes suddenly, how does it work such that like how can it be so flexible? Like if a player wanted to leave, how do things work around that? So
Ryan, I'm not entirely sure if I understand your question, but I'll try to answer it. So, due to COVID, there were certain regulations which were implemented, COVID-specific regulations at the FIFA level, and FIFA also asked the national associations to implement those regulations. You mentioned the registration period. So, in many countries, that was extended. For example, say a contract, if it was initially supposed to end on the 30th of June, that would automatically be extended till the end of the season. So those specific regulations were implemented, taking COVID into consideration. Is that what you were asking, right?
yes, it was in that same regard, and even I think Messi's contract had a similar nature, right? As to why he was not allowed to leave, if I'm not wrong.
That was, I think, quite controversial. Messi never. So I'm not sure what would have happened if Messi had decided to sue Barcelona. That never happened. So we are not entirely sure. I mean, I know certain arguments were made by Barcelona, which came out in the media, and then Messi was saying something else. But of course, how that would have been dealt with by a judge, I don't know. It's really hard to say, because honestly speaking, I'm not sure I agree with the arguments which Barcelona was making. The whole thing about that particular clause have to be triggered within a certain date. I'm not sure whether it was a particularly strong argument, but I guess we'll never know.
No, like so
Yeah.
you were also telling that the Spanish league wants to somewhat become as big as the English league. So if you notice, even in regard with Messi, the La Liga actually put out a statement saying that Messi cannot leave, and there was a probability that he could go to Man City, the Premier League. So do you think it all the pieces come around?
Could be possible. That's possible. I mean, imagine. I mean, so in
You're getting
Spain
the
for the
points.
past,
Why is also all is why he's taking Messi as a as a point, right? You also aware of that point, right? Just now we have mentioned who we support, right? So why he's taking Barcelona in front? You're getting that point also, I think, right, sir? So
I guess he's a Barcelona fan, but I mean
no, he's a
something.
real fan, sir.
He's
He's
a
a
Real
real
Madrid fan.
fan.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Of course, yeah,
United.
sorry. So see, the point is, I mean, what happens is once you start working as a professional, you have to forget about which club you support. I'll tell you one thing. I mean, this is not confidential. The first case I got in India was against my childhood club, the club which I've been a fan of since the age of 8 or 9. Okay, but I had to represent two players against the club, and I did. And you need to kind of course, if I get a chance to, if Paolo Maldini calls me up tomorrow and he's like, hey, listen, AC Milan needs help from you regarding a certain matter, I would be super happy. But then at the same time, if I get a case against the club, I would be happy to take that up as well. So sometimes you need to forget about which club you're a fan of and try to be as objective as possible, objective and unbiased, which is not very easy to do, but that's something you need to learn. Okay.
I get it. I get
that's
it.
the reason you need to wear the suit, right? That's the reason we have episode also suits and sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So another thing, like nowadays we have seen some of the students, right? Like India sports law is growing, and some of the students feel they have a thinking in their mind, like even yesterday itself only we have a discussion with a student. There is a mind like, if I go to study abroad sports law, then I can like get my job in the next day. I am graduated, I get my job. This is something I feel like this very wrong concept is coming out in the mind of this young generation, right? Like sports law, if I go to like certain foreign university, completely next day getting job, I will staying back in Madrid, or I will be in Milan, I will be in London and all. So even you are getting this type of like student also, I think so. Like they come and contact you, and their view is like, okay, I'm getting a degree in LLM in sports law, or master in sports law, and next day itself getting job. So what's your view in that? Like according to me, if you ask me, it's like I feel like it's a race. We only, and in this race only the survival of the fittest. If 90 students will be there, so top 10 or out of the top 10, like only 5 and 6 students will be like getting the job. And when I mentioned this thing to my student, he was like, he was not able to take that. So what's your take on it?
Look, I completely agree with you, Subhrajit. This is a very competitive industry, and there's a lot of interest in India, especially globally, in India as well, which is great to see that more people are interested in getting into the industry. This wasn't the case even 5 or 6 years back. I completed my graduation in 2014. Back then, I didn't see too many people. I didn't know too many people, at least, who were interested in sports law. But at the same time, yes, what you said, it's very competitive. There are limited opportunities. So, of course, not everyone is going to succeed. And not necessarily because they're not competent or they don't have the acumen. It's just that you need a little bit of fortune. Because, like you said, 100 people will apply for a job. Perhaps the top 10 are, say, the top 10 or 20 are at the same level, but then there are only 5 slots. So that's like between those 10 or 20 people, it's like a lottery. So it depends on whether you were at the right place at the right time. That's one. The second thing, which I think is very important to remember, is that one should not look at an LLM or any kind of master's program as a shortcut. It's a part of a process. You need to do several things to establish yourself and to survive, just to survive in the sports industry. A degree from a foreign university is one of those things, perhaps. All right. So don't look at it as a shortcut. One thing which I always advise, and whoever asks me for advice, I tell them, is that if you're from India, try to work in India for at least 1 or 2 years before you even consider going abroad for your master's. Now, I'm not saying that I know people who have gone for their master's right after their graduation and are doing extremely well. But I would say these people are the exceptions to the rule. Most of my colleagues who are doing well, who are currently working abroad or are doing well in India, are people who went for their masters after getting some amount of experience. That is something which is very important, because with an Indian passport, it's not easy to find job abroad. the reason is it's not easy for an employer to get a visa for a non-EU person. All right, there's no other reason. It's not that Indian lawyers are not competent. I think Indian lawyers are extremely competent. They have excellent skills, and they're smart, they're enterprising, but it's just inconvenient, and it's quite tricky for a foreign company or firm to hire an Indian employee. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So don't simply bank on landing a job abroad. You should also have a plan B. You should also have the option of coming back and working in India. These things are very important to keep in mind, I would say.
I think it comes with the name, it's called sports law, and we all know sports is something that's competitive.
Of course, absolutely.
So, like, the last question in this session from my side will be, like, you are nowadays getting, like, students are coming to you for an internship and all, right? So they will be 10 to 20 CV, and you'll be giving only 1 or 2 people as per the opening, right? So
Right.
what the particular thing you look at the CV, and like for what will be a motivation quota? Because you are the one, like when I was like not even came back India, I was not doing anything. You are the first one who have motivated me in this field. I still remember, right? So what's your view on that, and like what's your take on that? And firstly on the CV, and how do you, like, as you have motivate me, how will you like give us something like that will really motivate to our next generation also?
Regarding internship applications, to be honest, I feel really bad because I have to say no to a lot of people. I wish I could take in more interns, but for me, it's not feasible to take more than 1 or 2 interns each month, And also, if someone starts working with me, I prefer that they stay at least for a couple of months, because otherwise it does not make a lot of sense for me. And also the person who's doing the internship does not get to learn as much. So at least they should be with me for 2 months. So of course, I have to say no to most people, which is, I hate doing, but there's no other option. And with regards to the CV, look, I mean, of course, it's always helpful if you have done some sports related work. I mean, again, it's not easy to find internships in India. It's extremely difficult. There are a lot of sports law aspirants, and there are not so many sports law firms which are taking interns. I mean, we don't even have too many sports law firms, and I don't think that's going to increase much in the upcoming years. What I would advise sports law aspirants to do is, of course, write as much as you can, and attend webinars. Try to stay updated with the industry. Of course, be on the lookout for opportunities. One thing which I don't see students doing much is, law students I'm talking about, especially here, they are mostly looking to intern at law firms. Don't restrict yourself to simply sports law firms. Try to apply to management companies, for example, at clubs. And what I believe is, look, when if you want to work as a sports lawyer, you not only need to have adequate legal knowledge, you also need to have a good understanding of the industry. And that is only possible if you do not restrict yourself to law. So say you're a third-year student, okay? Try to do perhaps an operations internship. Try to work with the marketing team of a club. Why not? I mean, you learn a lot, and you will learn how to look at things from a different perspective as well. And of course, there are more number of the number of opportunities also increases, right? If you're not only restricted yourself to sports law firms. And again, it's a gradual process.
So Ryan, like before we leave, do you have any question? Like, where like even sir is
I think
very busy person.
my only question would have been any concluding remarks, but I think sir summarized it very well. Usually, we have the professional always give out a concluding remark in regard with the sports industry, and especially to all the aspiring people from the same field. So once again, so on behalf of Global Sports Policy Review, thank you so much for accepting our invite and taking time off your schedule. And also especially thank you for clearing a lot of doubts in regard with football, and also telling us as to how we should start it actually, I think a lot of us would change our approach when it comes to applying for internships. And so, yeah, once again, thank you so much, sir. Subhrajit, sir, would you like to say anything?
If I need to say anything, then I will be talking with the professor directly through phone, because we will not ask him for his blessing, and because he never give blessing. Like, he is not that much different. We have decided that. So only he can advise us. So he's also advising his many field. Like, like he is the first person who has motivated me, as I mentioned, like few minutes back itself only. So once again, sir, thank you, sir. Like, you came on this Saturday. I know this is a weekend for you also after long hectic work, but we have came, and we by the team also, we are very grateful for that. Thank you, sir.
No, it was an absolute pleasure. It was a fun session. I mean, this is very different from, normal webinars, because we discussed a number of things. It's fun. I think even for me, at least, it was a lot of fun, and it was great to have a chat with you guys. Always a pleasure. And just a general note to students, and I mean, you guys, of course, we are constantly in contact, but just for people who are watching this video, I mean, always feel free to get in touch with me. Perhaps don't call me up directly, because maybe I'm in the middle of something, but always feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or send me an email. I would be happy to respond. Okay, that's something I feel I feel obligated to do that. So, and it's something I do enjoy doing. So yeah, again, feel free to contact me if you require any kind of advice, assistance, or even if you want to have a chat about sports. Okay.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you so much,
All right,
sir.
bye. Bye, guys. Take care.